And I think if you import the third world, you're going to become the third world, and it's scary.
She's not a racist. She made a valid point. It's a lot of young men.
Extremely harmful and dangerous gender ideology, which leads kids to be mutilated.
I pledge my heart.
I pledge my heart.
To the rainbow.
To the rainbow.
Of the not-so-typical gay camp.
Of the not-so-typical gay camp.
Affirmation and equal rights for all.
Welcome back to Recent UK, guys and gals, with me, Darren Grimes. We're giving you common sense in an age of utter nonsense. In this video, we're going to be looking at the left libtard hysteria over a social media account called Libs of TikTok. You've probably heard of it. The account, created and ran by an American woman named SHREDS, highlights liberal hypocrisy, the madness of the gender craze sweeping across the West, harming our children, and the way in which mass migration means that if you import the third world, your nation quickly turns into the third world too. First up is her appearance on Talk TV, in which she was accused of race baiting, transphobia, and asked about the consequences of highlighting these very important issues.
Libs of TikTok, short for liberals, is one of the most popular and controversial accounts on social media. It highlights examples of LGBT excess posted publicly by, well, libs, such as this recent post of a man in a dog's mask with the comment, "There's a serious mental health crisis in this country." Well, Haya Raychek is the creator of Libs of TikTok. This weekend, she sparred with Washington Post reporter Taylor Lorenz, who was mystifyingly wearing a mask outside. The encounter went viral and was variously described as
It's worth pointing out, by the way, that of course she does look mental wearing that mask outside. This is a left-wing journalist who's collared this Libs of TikTok to try and call her out and own her. Didn't manage to do that, as you'll see in this clip. But it's pretty rich of Piers Morgan to go on about mask wearing, given the hysteria that he radiated from his gob during the 3 lockdowns that our country endured.
Hinged, cringeworthy and agonising, with both parties being on the receiving end of all of those criticisms. Here's a taster of what she said.
I'm asking you, why is it that people have to live under your sort of view of gender? And
it's not my view, it's science. It's facts, it's biology. There's nothing logical about chopping off kids' body parts. There's nothing logical about giving kids porn in school. The whole trans it's based on a lie. You can't change your gender.
Personally, my feeling is that I believe in personal liberty. I grew up in a town where a lot of people, for their middle school graduation, women got nose jobs. I was just wondering, out of all the books that you've sort of tried to get removed, how many have you read?
I've read a couple of them.
Which ones?
Genderqueer. I've read This Book is Gay. My Shadow is Pink.
And what do you consider gay porn in these books?
This is a blowjob.
In the conservative movement, there's this ideology around sort of white nationalism, which is obviously kind of a hardline ideology. How do you feel about sort of aligning yourself with those people on account?
Not all cultures are equal.
But let's just get back to the Great Replacement stuff, because I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that whole ideology?
There were some minds over the past 3 years that there were more illegals coming into our border than children being born. They're importing people who want to destroy America.
That's true. That is very, very true. I'm sorry. It is absolutely correct to say that, you know, the rate of migration is far outstripping births in countries across the West. It's not just America. I think it's all well and good for Miss Lorenz to be sat there talking about freedom and liberty whilst muzzling herself, looking absolutely ridiculous.
Haya Raychek. Well, Haya, thank you very much indeed for joining me on Uncensored. I've got to say, I read a lot of your tweets, and the ones that I absolutely love are where you expose rank hypocrisy, where you simply show people a statement by a liberal, normally about, you know, something to do with the right wing or conservative arm, and then you have a response which just highlights the hypocrisy.
There's a lot of hypocrisy to expose, and it's part of the reason why they hate me so much, because I'm just sharing themselves in their own words and pointing out their hypocrisy, and they just can't handle seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, you've become a hate figure and a figure that's very popular as well. How do you deal with the reaction? I mean, you've got an aggressive interview there with the Washington Post journalist. Do you care? Does it deter you?
No, not at all. The hate actually keeps me going because the people that hate me are the most vile people on earth, and the fact that they hate me tells me that I'm doing something great. I would actually be upset if the people who are pro-genital mutilation and pro-giving kids porn in school and pro-sexualizing kids, I would be kind of concerned if they liked me.
Bloody well said. And then Talk TV put up Chaya Reichik up against Piers Morgan, some others, and Ava Santina of the left-wing Joe Politics. Let's have a watch.
And when you say, for example, that not all cultures are equal, what did you mean by that?
I mean, if you look at what's going on in the West, they're importing the third world, and there's constantly videos all over. It's very easy to find. And I think if you import the third world, you're going to become the third world, and it's scary. And I did explain it. You played the clip, Piers. You know, we're bringing in people who don't want to, you know, Taylor used the term melting pot, but they don't want to join the melting pot. They don't like America. They don't like what we stand for.
OK, Ava, you were saying that was disgraceful. Why?
Well, I'm just sort of confused because I'm not really too sure what you're adding to America or what you're actually contributing in comparison to this, you know, this quote-unquote importing third world. What are you talking about? People who migrate to America or people who migrate to the UK and then, I don't know, work in your health service and, you know, work for you. What are you actually contributing? Just because the colour of your skin is white doesn't mean that you are somehow more valuable than someone else.
That's not what she's saying.
I mean, it is what she's saying.
Here because this is it's not what she's saying.
I never mentioned skin color.
And,
but you did. You said importing the third world, and we know what those connotations mean. Let's not play stupid here. We know exactly what you mean by that.
No. You are adding. I didn't get that from that.
You denying those videos that are constantly all over social media.
What videos?
The videos of the third world in the West totally destroying the cities.
Like, do some actual research on her. The woman's not racist at all.
Okay,
I'd be the first one to go at her.
A lot of the crime that you're talking about is perpetrated by American citizens.
Be better than that. Okay. You're better than that.
Right.
Get her on context.
Well, she did accuse me at the beginning of this interview.
But don't attack her skin. You're better than that.
I didn't attack her skin.
She said that my intent is to be a hate account. So.
I mean, it is. It's to capitalise on hate, fear, and loathing. That is it. And it's okay. You should
let Ava respond.
You can ask me what's my intent of this account. My intent is not to stoke hate.
Okay, but
you just accused me of that at the beginning of this interview.
What is I mean, I suppose that you're going to say that the intent of your account is to shine light on things that actually just don't need to be shone light on at all. I mean, as we saw from that interview, that where you were exposed, you're not really, you know that you're not actually exposing anything. You're not actually presenting any new danger to anyone. You're just shouting sound bites and hoping that somehow they land and they go viral.
So kindergarten teachers teaching 4-year-olds that they can be transgender, I shouldn't expose that?
Right. Is it really any of your business, though? I think that your comment about the third world...
Not just because we ramp it up, it's because it matters. These are the people we're living.
All right, let Ava respond.
I think that we all know that comment about the third world is so unnuanced, it doesn't have any meaning to it, and you know that it's just baiting, it's race baiting, and it's stoking fear. And I mean, you're welcome to tell me what the other intended purpose of that, if it's not to do those things. Do you want to tell me?
I think it's very important that we understand what could happen.
What could happen? Tell me what could happen.
Okay, what do you mean by the third world? What exactly?
Why don't you ask? You know, why don't you ask Lake and Riley's parents? Why don't you speak to them?
I don't know who those people are.
What? Wait a minute. Hang on. They don't know who Lake and Riley is. I would have said, you know what? You know who Lake and Riley is? I'll tell you exactly who Lake and Riley is. Lake and Riley was a 22-year-old shining star and nursing student with her whole life ahead of her until she took one fateful jog in a supposedly free country at the University of Georgia, and quickly her dreams turned into a nightmare, because Laken's story isn't just a tragedy, right? It's a wake-up call, and Libs of TikTok are absolutely right to highlight it. It was a bloody wake-up call to the whole world. Her body was discovered in a forest park, taken from basically the world by blunt force trauma at the hands of Jose Antonio Ibarra, a 26-year-old Venezuelan who had waltzed straight into the United States with absolutely no right to be there. Reminds us of our own southern border. The police called it a crime of opportunity. More like a catastrophic failure of a system that Libs of TikTok are exposing. The illegal aliens arriving into nations where they don't belong, with values we don't share, and acting like barbarians once they get here. And thank God she does expose that before the West kills itself completely. This isn't just about tightening our borders, it's a demand for justice and a desperate scream for change, not just from the parents of those who've lost daughters at the hands of illegal migrants. This is all sparked by a scream for change, by the senseless loss of a young woman with an entire life ahead of her, whose only crime was going for a run in a free country that's overrun with illegal migration. And on the kindergarten point that Ava Santina raises, why should we have these hypersexualized themes exposed to our children at really early ages when they should be learning to read and write? That there is nothing radical or extremist or hateful about saying that.
She made a valid point. America, we're having a lot of problems in the streets, and if you're being honest and stuff, it's the people that are coming into the country in America, we're seeing a different trend. It's a lot of young men, military age, in shape, not a lot of families, and young children. And we have a lot of problems with young men make bad decisions in this country.
We're going to move on. I want to give the last word on this, though, to Haya before we let you go. You've listened to a range of views here. What's your final thought about all this?
I think that the left just can't handle seeing what they themselves are saying. Their views do not hold up to scrutiny, and that's why they hate me so much. I'm very proud of the work I've done. I'm going to continue doing it. And, you know, people ask me, what's your end goal? And I'll tell you right now, my goal is to become irrelevant. My goal is to shut down, because that will mean that gender ideology has been eradicated from this country, the extremely harmful and dangerous gender ideology, which leads kids to be mutilated and castrated, and the sexualization of kids is over. That's when I will know that my mission's complete, and I will shut down and move on.
Well said, Chaya. Speaking of hypocritical leftists, though, another debate that she had away from Talk TV, another person to attack Libs of TikTok was Chasten Buttigieg, husband of US Transport Secretary and failed presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg. Now, this debate was a stark reminder of the battleground that public discourse has become, as Chaya very eloquently set out throughout that interview. It basically, here we have Chaya Rychik, a veritable David armed with nothing but a social media sling via Libs of TikTok, taking on the Goliath of political correctness, the Democratic Party. And folks, it's about worth watching. Rychik, you see, was appointed to an Oklahoma school library panel and has been lambasted for supposedly lacking the traditional credentials for the role, whatever that means. But since when did challenging the status quo require a degree? Since when did having an interest in what our children are being taught require a degree? Rychik's appointment, if you ask me, is a breath of fresh air in an often stale room. It's a signal that perhaps, just perhaps, the winds of change are blowing through the corridors of power throughout the West, carrying with them a whiff of common sense, and we like that here. And in defence of Rychik and Libs of TikTok, you might argue that her role isn't to conform to educational orthodoxy, but to actually seek it out and challenge it, to ensure that the library panel isn't an echo chamber of the same old ideas or pornographic ones. In a world keen on silencing dissenting voices, Rychik's presence on the Oklahoma school library panel might actually just be the antidote needed to counteract the prevailing wind of censorship masquerading as virtue. And whose opinion should we really trust here when it comes to child safety? Let's have a watch of Buttigieg from a 2012 documentary film on his husband.
So I didn't prepare for this moment by studying policy or politics and preparing to be in the limelight. In like 8th grade, I ran for student council and just bombed. But what I am good at talking about is myself. And right now, I think that's enough. for a lot of people.
At least he's
All right.
self-aware.
I pledge my heart.
I pledge my heart
To the rainbow.
to the rainbow
Of the not-so-typical gay camp.
of the not-so-typical gay camp.
One camp.
One camp,
Full of pride.
full of pride,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
With affirmation and equal rights for all.
with affirmation and equal rights for all.
Watch your heads.
We're gonna pass out potatoes to make your very own drag tater that you get to take home with you.
Oh my gosh, that's really good.
Who's coming out to play?
It's Cherry. Being out on the trail gives me the opportunity to come do things like this. I mean, this stuff just like puts the wind in my sails. It just reminds me of the importance of the job.
How do you deal with not only
Hang on a minute, is that one of those furry things? One of those weird, debauched, vice-ridden, homosexual, furry tribe things where people dress up as animals, furry animals? It's not just a gay thing, but they dress up as furry animals. I'm not sure how that's quite friendly for children. In fact, I'm not sure how any of it is friendly for children. And this is precisely what Libs of TikTok is aiming to do, to actually shine a light on the way in which children, in my opinion, are being overtly sexualized from a very early age. They're being brought up to believe that they're in the wrong body. They're being brought up to believe that gender affirmation, automatic gender affirmation, is perfectly laudable, acceptable, a good thing for a society to attain to. I think it would be a complete hellscape if we were to accept automatic gender affirmation outright. Put children on generally irreversible puberty blockers, hormone treatments that may be causing cancer according to some of the latest leaks from WPATH. I just think this is absolutely, it goes to the heart of why Libs of TikTok is so hated and why actually it's so important that their work is allowed to go on and on and on. Look, ultimately, the left libtard hysteria is exactly because they're finally being exposed thanks to Libs of TikTok and others, because the mainstream media certainly won't going to do it. The pushback against the sexualization and medicalization of our kids has begun in a very, very real and very serious way, and it will influence many votes at the next election in America and elsewhere. The Western world is slowly, I hope, waking up, slowly but surely, waking up to an influx of fighting age young men arriving to its shores and the consequences of that. We see it here in Britain. Europe sees it. America sees it. Borders matter. Without them, none of us are safe and our nations cease to exist. This is an existential moment for the Western world. It's not about spreading hate or gaining notoriety online. It's about saving our way of life. What our ancestors sacrificed to build and the values that we in the Western world hold dear, whether we know that or not, are in peril and worth saving. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, there are links in the description so you can get more of me. And if you want more content from us, you can click either of these links here. Thank you very much again. I've been Darren Grimes, and this is Reasoned UK, giving you common sense in an age of utter nonsense.